Hey guys, how's it going? So in today's chat, I'd like to talk about grounding and why I truly believe that grounding and awareness is the foundation for everything. And having gone through the grounding experience in my life and seeing how it's transformed not only my life, but also the lives of others around me and my clients, I'd really like to make my case for it. And so I'd like to start with sharing my experience. When I was in my early teens, I got bullied quite a lot. And as a result of those experiences and the way I saw myself and I saw the world coming from this, state of survival and insecurity and this low sense of self-worth, the resulting behaviors, when I believed those thoughts, would be validation seeking, proving my self-worth. It would be just a lot of really cringy behaviors, in order to validate my sense of self or prove my self-worth. And although I kind of laugh, in hindsight, it's pretty funny, but there's a lot of empathy for that kid that went through those experiences. There's a lot of empathy for the worldview of that teen that had gone through those experiences and believed those thoughts. And so through the process of grounding and awareness and being coached, I was able to see through all those beliefs. And it was funny because I operated from that worldview or through that lens of insecurity and not knowing who I was for the longest time. And regardless of what I had accomplished, on the superficial level. So even when I started my businesses or as I ventured out into the dating world and I got the validation that I was so desperately seeking, I still felt like shit inside, because I hadn't looked at the core. I hadn't inquired into those beliefs or those thoughts. I had just masked it up with accomplishments or validation, and so it never really felt light, right? It never really felt aligned. Like I was always operating from that place, and it was always like a selfish place back then, because I just felt I was just in survival basically. But having gone through the grounding process and being able to see through those thoughts and see through those beliefs and really inquire and to release those energies, then I was able to operate from a much more unconditional place. I was able to operate from a space of much more mental bandwidth and clarity. And it's still a work in progress because I see grounding as just this ongoing journey. And as you take on challenges in your life and you stretch yourself or you find your edge, these experiences will bring out the conditioning or limiting beliefs or things for you to then ground, to question, to see if they're even true, to see if they're even your beliefs. And when we don't see through certain beliefs or who we see ourselves to be, then everything we'll do will just be a cover-up for that. We have this analogy in coaching that's like, putting a lipstick on a pig, polishing a turd, or putting a diamond on top of dog poo or something, where we're trying to make the mask look really good. You can see this in like all the highlight reels, right, of social media influencers, and then inevitably at some point they'll all share that they're suffering from like mental health, because inside and outside isn't aligned. Like it really sucks when you're consistently, and I went through this as well as when I was doing my Instagram journey and I was sharing my fitness journey, where the mask of what you're showing the world, it doesn't match up to how you feel inside, like your internal subjective experience and what you're portraying on the external world is like misaligned. There's a big cognitive dissonance, and so that creates a lot of pain and suffering. And not only INFPs, but I don't think anyone can kind of operate from that space for a really long time. So when I take my clients through a transformation, we always come back to grounding, regardless of what they want to create. Really the process for us is like liberation and freedom. When I work with clients, almost all of them always say that they just want freedom. They want freedom from the self. They want a freedom to be who they really are, or the freedom to explore things, to be without limitations. And the first step of that, operating in this world without limitations, is to be able to see through all those thoughts and beliefs that you believe yourself to be, or the thoughts and beliefs that keep you caught up, that keep you in limitation. Otherwise, again, we'll be spending our whole lifetimes just enhancing that mask. You know, we're spending our whole lifetimes trying to shape the outside world so that we feel okay on the inside, you know, instead of looking at, like, and this is a lot of Michael A. Singer's work, is like looking at why we don't feel okay on the inside. You know, what are the beliefs, thought patterns, what are the limitations that keep us contracted, that keep us in limitation, that keep our hearts closed, that keep our hearts closed up to the possibility of experience, you know, because that's what we're here for. We're here in this world, in this, you know, this life, this relatively short life that we have to experience, and to be caught up by conditioning, limiting beliefs, and the constant struggle of day-to-day life, and masking our insecurities. And it's just not a great way. It's just not a great way to live, you know. And so I'm not saying that the grounding process is an easy process, and like you're not going to go through a lot of suffering as you start to bring awareness to these things. Because actually, if anything, when you first go through the grounding journey or awareness, there's even more suffering, because you're starting to move from like unconscious incompetence to like conscious incompetence, where you start to really see these things. And you can go through a period where you get caught up a lot, like you go from grounded to ungrounded, grounded, ungrounded. But that's really the journey, you know. And it's a really beautiful process, because the more you go through those phases where you're ungrounded and you start to see through these beliefs that you learn from them, then you come back out into the grounding. And then so you start to learn to be grateful for your highs. And this is from Michael Neal, so credits to him. You start to be grateful for your highs, and you start to operate in a more graceful place in your lows, you know. And so then the journey of life becomes a lot more beautiful, a lot more free. And I do want to provide you guys with some resources that you can take away and you can look at for yourself and try to articulate. I think this sort of stuff is quite hard to articulate, especially to kind of like a general audience, because when I'm working with a client, then their specific situation and what they share with me really brings out all the resources that I have inside. Whereas when I'm just literally speaking to a camera, then I kind of have to like freestyle and try to figure out or try to create where you guys are at in your life and stuff, and speak to it in a more general sense. But I hope this has done grounding some justice, and it gets you to look at transformation through the lens of grounding, and in a deeper, in a different way, a more embodied way. So yeah, that's all I've got, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.